Madame New spoke at the University of California today to some 7,000 students inside Harmon Gymnasium and to almost an equal number who heard her from the outside over loudspeakers. A group of about 75 pickets marched in protest to the right of the main entrance of the building, in an area of half a block of Dana Street which had been set aside for that purpose. At her arrival, the pickets moved around the building, outflanking the police guard, and were able, as they had been unable in San Francisco the day of Madame New's arrival, to confront Madame New. She was hastily escorted into the building. Professor Robert Scalapino, chairman of the Political Science Department of the university, chaired the meeting and introduced Mrs. New, who delivered a speech similar to the talk she has given several times during her American tour. Her first remarks made reference to the speech at the university, which had been planned, canceled, and then planned again. Here are Dr. Scalapino and the opening remarks of Mrs. New.
Vietnam today is a symbol of the complexities of politics and international relations in the mid-20th century world. 28 million people, some 15 million of them in the north, above the 17th parallel, live in this society. In many respects, South Vietnam has a favorable economic potential, much rich land and industrious people, and a generally favorable climate for tropical agriculture. And yet it is plagued with political instability, and has been so for many years. Today, a serious struggle is taking place in this society. Communists and other dissidents have control over many parts of the South, and there is a relentless campaign being waged for the political and military loyalties of the Vietnamese people. No issue in American foreign policy is more perplexing and more troublesome, perhaps today, than the issue of Vietnam. A number of Americans now accept the fact that we cannot expect every society to be a carbon copy of the United States. Not every nation can operate effectively as a parliamentary democracy. On the other hand, what are the indispensable requirements for aid and solace from our government? To some Americans, 2 points would be essential. First, that a government, whatever its form, have the support of a sufficient number of its people to be capable of sustaining itself without necessary reliance upon arms alone. And secondly, that a government have the minimum amount of efficiency, measured in economic, political, and military terms, to utilize aid effectively and to move toward the broad goals of economic development and political stability. It is clear that many Americans, including our State Department and our President, have some doubts as to whether the present government of Vietnam meets these standards. Madam New is here, I feel certain, to argue that it does. As the student body president has mentioned, the university has a policy wisely conceived by the regents of permitting the widest possible expression of opinion. It is based upon the philosophy that university students have a right to hear all sides and make up their own minds. No doubt, Madam New, there is an extremely wide spectrum of political opinion represented in this audience. I can assure you, however, that the overwhelming body of students and faculty of the University of California are supporters of democracy and opponents of authoritarianism, whether of the left or the right. Madam New has had an exhausting schedule in this country. Many of us have marveled at her stamina, and in watching her, we have also been impressed that she is a professional. She is an intelligent lady of strong opinions and a determination to have her position heard. She is a lady who has generally been able to hold her own in the rough and tumble of political debate. Madame New comes to us as a private citizen. I do believe she is a special type of private citizen whose opinions have more than ordinary weight with her government. Now she is here to give us some of her opinions. I take pleasure in introducing Madame New.
In spite of dissuasions, which sometimes took even the appearance of threat, I have come here.
While the audience reaction to Mrs. New was polite, even cordial, some aspect of feeling in opposition to her was shown during the question period, a period which also illustrated Mrs. New's famed ability to handle herself before an audience.
If Vietnam is so democratic, why is President Diem obstructing all efforts of the United Nations Fact-Finding Commission to find out the Buddhist viewpoint?
The question is, if Vietnam is so democratic, why is President Diem obstructing the efforts of the United Nations Fact-Finding Commission in connection with the Buddhist question?
This question shows how people here are still misinformed. It is very strange you do not know, has been requested by the Vietnamese government itself, and that it was the Russians who opposed the sending, who opposed the request of the Vietnamese government. So since the Vietnamese government requests that fact-finding mission, why should they oppose their work? So I cannot understand that you can believe such things. Have you thought?
If there is no persecution of the Buddhists, then why did the South Vietnamese government censor the press and beat certain American newsmen?
The fact that there is no censorship against the foreign local correspondents in Saigon is that you hear only the version of the opposition. And you object, but for me, I see all the misinformation, which your own government is the first victim, comes in fact that your press is not censored in Saigon. Otherwise, we would tell them that what they've spread all over the world are false. But here, another thing, only during the martial law, that means during 10 days, I think, there was censorship. But during that time even, that censorship was only because of the state of siege. But after that and before that, there has never been censorship against either the local Vietnamese press or the foreign local press. About the 3 newsmen beaten, I find it very strange all that fuss about it, while there was not so much fuss when the French newsman was shot in the back in Mississippi. When Prince Albert of Belgium, who is a very polite gentleman, I speak of, Prince Albert of Belgium, very polite gentleman who boxed a few newsmen because a few photographers who took photos of his wife. I find that very strange that the world did not make a fuss about it. But in Vietnam, I wish to remind you that why, if you want to make so much fuss, why do you not make fuss about people who incite naive people to commit suicide for a faith which has never been threatened? Why do you not make fuss about what we consider as a real crime, that means those incitements, and also when people attend suicide without rescuing the people in danger? In my country, like in your country, when we attend suicide without trying to rescue, we are a criminal. Why do you not emphasize that?
Down here, this fellow, down here. What about the statement attributed to you on barbecuing of the Buddhist priests?
I have repeatedly explained my position about it, and I'm still amazed to hear that question. That means that, you see, if I still must repeat myself like a senile woman, it is just because your friends does not repeat me. And I must still satisfy you about that expression. In fact, I did not know it, and I was only like all other people in my country, trying to do something to stop those incitements to unnecessary suicides. And the Vietnamese government started to say that this is a crime. Others said that this is unnecessary, foolish, and all that. It didn't work. And only the day, and this all the American colony in Vietnam can prove it for me, because they said long before I said, but only when my children went in a snack bar, I have said, and heard many Americans there telling why the Vietnamese government does not try to stop this by ridicule. Today, if they put a squad there clapping hands for each barbecue show, each monk barbecue show, surely it will stop. My children were shocked, but when they repeated it to me, I believe that it was a good advice, killing those suicides with ridicule. And I think that it was my duty of a good citizen to try to save human lives thanks to that means. I believe that it would be accepted because I saw that the Americans in Saigon speaking very openly about it. And I am, as I have said, only victim of an American advice, which is well intended.
Here. The question is repeated. You didn't answer the matter of the beating of American newsmen. Does this represent freedom of the press?
I have already answered that those things happen all the time. Even I do not provoke anyone, but I receive also eggs, and it is the risk of the work. And when I was in New York, I had to witness 4 newsmen. 4 photographers who wanted to photograph me and who were ruffled by your own police. And I was very relieved to see that the blame was not put finally on me.
This gentleman up here in the balcony with the something hanging handkerchief. The question is, what criteria should be used to give American aid to a foreign government? The comment that Hitler's Germany was also anti-communist.
What criteria, what should be the basis on which American aid should be given to foreign governments? What should be the position of the governments getting American aid? In other words, on what basis should American aid be given?
This is also a question I wish to ask you all, because I really find strange that when Stalin received so much aid it is because just he was your ally, and it was never requested from him to change his government. And so myself, I wonder on what criteria you give your aid. You give your aid because people are your allies, or because they are anti-communist, or on what criteria? According to me, we fulfill all the criteria, and maybe because we are not only your allies, effective, we are not only anti-communist, we do at the same time our best. We are fighting and doing our best in spite of casualties of 14,000 a year, which would mean for you 180,000 people a year. We do our best to settle democracy in our country.
The question is that if there was not prior communication from the American government to the Vietnamese government, why was Ambassador Lodge kept waiting 3 or 4 days before he could get to the government?
First, about Ambassador Lodge waiting for 3 or 4 days, it is just because at that time it was Saturday, Sunday, and I do not know, it is... And you should know that our own ambassador is waiting for more than 10 days. And we do not protest. And I think that we do not know the reason why. For us, we can say that it is not only because it was weekend, but also that because Mr. Lodge requested himself that for him to see the embassy before seeing the president.
After the meeting, which ended promptly at 1 o'clock, Slate, a UC student group which was involved in the protest, held a rally near the steps to the building. Up to 800 people attended. One of the speakers was Hal Draper of the Socialist Party. Another speaker, famed for his frequent street corner meetings, blasted the crowd for the reception to Mrs. New. This was Leonard Glazer. Here are the remarks of Mr. Draper and Mr. Glazer.
The feeling is abroad that the only alternative to this is to support the communist regime in North Vietnam or the Viet Cong guerrillas in Vietnam itself. I want to say that there are not those choices before us. If there were only those two, it would come hard, and for the world as well as for us. But it is not true that those are the two choices before us. There are not two but three forces fighting in Vietnam. One, of course, are the Viet Cong communists. The other are the forces of the government whose police state and hangman Madame New represents. But the third, whom everybody knows about, but whom you must not forget, are the people of South Vietnam, who are those whom the Diem regime is massacring, those whom the Diem regime is putting in jail, those who are fighting the Diem regime as opponents of dictatorship and as proponents of a democratic and free Vietnam. And I tell you that one of the main functions that American support and American troops and American money is now playing in South Vietnam. Horrible dictatorship, torturers, concentration camp masters, as against not communists who are on the other side of the lines, but as against the people of their own country who are seeking a democratic and free Vietnam. I would ask you to demonstrate against Madame New and to raise the slogans and the demands against the United States policy which is involved in Vietnam. I ask you that as a democratic socialist. I ask you that as a lover of freedom. I ask you that as an opponent of this murderous and assassin-like foreign policy which the Kennedy administration carries on in Vietnam.
The next speaker is Lenny Glazer. He has to go to court at 2 o'clock, but he has time to speak for about 5 minutes.
When I was a kid, I used to think that college people were intelligent. I'm not a kid anymore.
The immense majority of people in this college got an F today in elementary political decency. If you cannot see tyranny, then you are blind, and there are schools for the blind which I suggest that you go to. This woman represents a clique representing nobody but their own selves in Vietnam. Millions of Vietnamese are fighting against this woman and her family. They're fighting in the Viet Cong, they're fighting in the Buddhist demonstrations. And it is a mark of simple political decency that anybody with any pretense to any claim to believing in freedom supports people who are fighting tyranny. Yeah. That is A, B, and C in the language of honest politics. Right. In politics, if you get an F, you pay. You got an F today and you will pay. You will fight now in the jungles of Vietnam. You will fight in the jungles of Venezuela. You will fight in the Pampas. You are lucky Genghis Khan did not show up today. You are lucky. If this is the product of an American education, woe unto you and woe unto American education. Education. A, B, and C is that concentration camps are wrong. The United States government has not only used napalm, not only used chemical warfare, it has used police dogs. We have sent police dogs, which we must feed $1.17 a day worth of meat to oppress Vietnamese who live on a standard of living of 23 cents a day worth of rice. And you come on as American freedom lovers. You're serfs. Serfs. Many a time in the history of man, governments have sinned against their nation. And this is merely one time. Now, if you have any pretext whatsoever, any, to political integrity, you do not clap like seals. When a tyrant comes, you demonstrate, and you demonstrate. This is a scandal! A scandal! What a lame society that produces people who applaud a murderer. What a shame! What a shame! You don't need a dictatorship here. You have it in your heads. Serfs! Now you will pay. You will pay. You will pay in murder. If this woman wins, every reactionary force in American life will take heart. The racists in the South will take heart. The anti-labor people will take heart. The people who are against having communists speak here will take heart. Every tyrant in the world will applaud you because you, without getting paid, voluntarily made holy asses of yourselves. You are a disgrace. Do I speak plainly? Very plainly. That is the truth. You shamed yourself. People marched in front of you with signs saying, "A murderer is here." And you stood like you had no legs. Shame on you. You will pay. American people are convinced that the sun sets twice on them. It's set twice on them. It'll set on their graves if this keeps up. This is a world with atom bombs and hydrogen bombs. And if these fanatics, these mad greedheads, get away with this, you will pay. You will pay in your civil rights. You will pay in low wages. You will pay in every way, serfs. Now you failed one test. It does not take any kind of eyes to see that a revolution is brewing in this world. There will be more tests. Next time, get honest, get integrity, and protest tyranny.
This is a Slate Truth rally.
After Glazer had finished, and as another speaker was beginning his remarks, a disturbance occurred at the periphery of the crowd.
Hey! Hey, what's up? Hey! What the hell are you doing?
Police officer,
What is the charge against this man?
Yes. Can we just have that information, please?
All right?
All right.
No, if I have this, I think I have the right to
You and I will
to be talked to.
That's right.
Yeah, but wait. Before
Tell
you
us what the
talk,
charge is.
what? And you wait. All we ask, sir, all we ask is what's the charge, please.
There's no charge. We're going
No
to...
charge.
Can you take a man with no charge?
Let him.
Wait a minute. How can you take a man with no charge?
You me.
Democratic policeman. Freedom of speech. Don't quit
The door is going to be open. You watch the door open. There's one man. We're going to speak only, right? You give me your word of honor, we're going to speak?
You're all by myself, John.
Give me your word of honor.
That's in front of your eyes. I can take someone away from you. Right in front of your eyes.
Paper, I want nothing. I just want to speak what you want to speak to me. That's all.
This is what had occurred. As the rally was going on, a car attempted to edge its way through the crowd. One person, an Israeli citizen born in France, now teaching French in this country, tried to stop the car, telling the driver that a rally was going on. When she persisted in driving through, he called her a bitch. He was taken into tow by Berkeley police officers, and in the process of asking why he was being taken, he brushed at the officer's badge. At this point, the police officer, joined by several others, began to drag the man down the sidewalk. It was this event which drew the attention of the crowd. As the audience moved away from the speaker to the struggling officers and their captive, the police also brought to the ground one or two demonstrators who tried to intervene. As the crowd completely surrounded the group and demanded the charge against the man, the officers allowed him to get to his feet. His pants were torn, his watch missing, a button was torn off, and his hand had a minor scrape. A sergeant of police asked the man, who had now identified himself as John, to come with him to talk the matter over. Finally, the officer and John went to the back seat of a police car. Here is that conversation.
What is your last name? My last name has nothing to do. I could be anybody. My name is John, and that's all. I have no right to give you my last name for any reason. I give my last name to my friends. That's all. If you're a friend of mine, you give me your last name, I'll give you my last name. Yeah, but are you speaking as a private individual or as a policeman?
I'm on duty, John.
Well, then let's speak,
My name is Plants. What is your last name?
No, because I am not a policeman. I am a private citizen.
Where do you teach school?
I teach privately. Now tell me what you want from me, and I'll answer you.
Where do you live?
What does that to do with the issue here?
So we created the disturbance.
I did not create a disturbance.
What do you
You were
call
impatient because they thought you were using violence. That's all.
Nobody used violence.
Well, you did. You took me by bodily. Look. Is it violence? My watch is gone. My button is gone. You make me even cry. For crying out loud. You have no right to do that.
Stop yelling and
I speak with my soul. You have no right. You understand? I lost my grandfather, I lost my father, I have the right to speak.
John,
I'm the only one alive, you understand? You have no right, I'm telling you. You have no right. You have no right to put me like this in this country. I get to this country, they scare the Nazis, and here you start all over again. You have no right. Give me a key, son. Give me a key. No, what's the key? You have no right. No. We're living in democracy, remember. We'll cry. We'll cry. They will go if you let me go.
all right, well, let's get
I'll tell them to go.
What is your name?
My name, you don't have to know. My name is John, and that's enough.
No.
Because, we live in this country. We know what's happening. I'm not a fool.
We find your watch. How are we going to get it back to you?
You give it to me or you keep it as a souvenir. I don't even care about that.
We find your watch. How do we get it back to you?
I'll come to your house privately if you want to be my friend. Otherwise, I don't want the watch. You understand? And you know why I cry? I cry because what I see, the way you handle me. Not here, not in this country. You understand?
Why did you use profanity to the driver of the car was coming through there?
I was telling her what I felt. I have the right. I didn't provoke her.
You don't have the right to use profanities.
It's not provided a bitch. A bitch is a female of a dog. That's all it is. If she feels insulted, that's her fault.
You don't have the right to use that
Do you think that
language,
Mrs.
John.
Wu is doing good, perhaps? Even President Kennedy is not against her. You know it.
She's not
And you're
using
roasting me.
profanity.
What is this? She's using worse thing, you know. She put people in concentration camps. She puts people out there. You know that, I don't have to tell you. And we have this in Europe the same way. We've been treated like dogs, you know it, by the Nazis.
As John left the car, the rally, now largely dispersed, continued. And on a nearby corner, John told questioners about the event and his feelings.
Charming lady, they tried to be charming, I suppose, with the baggages, and they were told not to go through, that there's a meeting there, and they drove regardless how they felt about the people around.
Why did you call them bitches?
Because what else does she deserve? And she doesn't respect the people there. Here, in a historical moment, where Mrs. New is creating such a... She dares to come to this country after Mr. Stevenson being clubbed in Dallas, Texas, and getting a better reception than Mr. Stevenson. I mean, what is this? What kind of place are we living in?
Well, you didn't know these women then.
No, of course not. But they tried to... I was not jump on the women. I was jump on the police force. They thought I was going to do something violent. I didn't do anything. Look, how could I do anything when I was dragged bodily? That's why the people went around. They knew I didn't do anything.
Why did you...
So after you called the girls a bitch, what occurred after that?
Well, that's it. That is what occurred.
Guy came over in there and said, what
All
kind of
right,
language
I don't
is that
mind
you
this.
use? And the
I don't
whole
mind
bit.
this for the
moral.
word. I don't mind this for the word, but there's more to it. And we all know it, otherwise it wouldn't happen this
Where
way.
do you live, John?
You want to visit to me? You want to see me? If you want to see me, I prefer to see you.
We just want to know who you are.
Who I am? I'm John. You see, you speaking to me, you heard my voice, you see how I am. What else do you want? I could have any name. My name is not important. My name is John. I can give you my name, John. I could be anybody here, any fellow here that feels like the way I do. You can see for yourself.
How do you feel?
Well, can you hear how I feel?
Thank you, John. How do you think the girls
Thank you.
I'm sure they don't know what the hell
I
happened.
hope they come back and they apologize for having interrupted the meeting. That's what I hope. And I will apologize for having called them that. It's not their fault. Thank you. They have no right to drive with the car. I see those young kids, 18, 19, getting killed. Preserve democracy. And then Mrs. New comes over here and she's being listened to. If you want to turn, you go to Israel, go to those kibbutzim, see what they do. I've been with them. I've seen the blood running there. And all their parents have been killed during the Nazi regime. And I see how they try to revive a new world. That's why I cry for them. And I cry for all these years that I live under this humiliation, and I come here and we face the climax moment. I spoke to Einstein also, not because with a group we went to see him at Princeton. And he says he's ashamed for what he has done. He says he was supposed to make this atomic bomb to work for it. He never thought of doing such a thing. He thought he was going to make a better world. Well, you see the result now. I'm crying for all this. Because that's all I have to live for. I lost my grandfather, I lost my parents. That's all I am. alone. Shall I survive? Shall I have children? I don't know yet. Shall I teach French because I was born in France? I want to give what I have got in me. I teach French, I teach Hebrew. There is something to teach. If people want to learn, I don't know. It's such a hard thing to teach people today. They are so afraid. They are running all the time. They don't know which way to go. And I'm proud to be here in San Francisco because I know people have come from all over the world. They have no other place to go than they come to the Pacific coast. Not the big ocean on the other side, Mrs. New waiting. That's the last stop. That's the last stop where we know about this university working for the outer limit, or the way they call it. In biology, in science, what are we going to invent? Destruction or construction? Well, you got right here. You all know it. That's why you responded. I know it. You are the best people in America. You are right here. I know it. I don't want to compliment you, but I know if you come here, it's not by accident. It's destiny brought you here. Now let's see what you're going to do. You're going to stand against the ocean, or you're going to sink. This is the last stronghold. Remember that. Maybe Israel will be eradicated again. That's why I'm crying, because I know we're bordering on life and death. This is a small country and it's a big country. We are on the same boat. Same boat. I'll speak to all of you. I hope you do really something.
This has been Burton White for Pacifica Public Affairs.